Have you ever wondered what would happen if drugs were not so attached to society? Well, drugs have been in society for a long time, and I'm speaking about this topic because I have a friend who committed suicide due to drugs, and drugs have been incorporated into society for a long time. Some adverse effects can come to people who take them, who try to get off them, and what can happen after, during society. Most people take drugs regardless of the side effects, but those side effects do more harm to the body than good, like killing you. Symptoms of some of these drugs and effects include dilated pupils, paranoia, aggression, hyperventilation, and sometimes you can OD on them. In our World in Data website, they say globally illicit drug use was responsible for just over 750,000 deaths in 2017. This is nearly double the number of deaths from homicide, which is 400,000. Most of these people do not know that drugs cause a lot of stuff to happen while you take them. And the DEA's National Drug Threat Assessment says that drugs involving synthetic opioids other than methadone, the category which includes fentanyl, increased by 10% according to data provided by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, aka the CDC. There are many ways to stop yourself from using drugs and lots of ways to keep not using them. Drugs can be prevented by using ways to cope with drug abuse. In a help guide for overcoming drug addiction, they say that don't try to go alone, reach out for support, which means that you should go to drug interventions or have a sober companion to help you along the way to keep you off of drugs. And you should have your friends help you along the way too, because they are the ones that you can depend on over the time. And kids who take drugs will always love it because they don't know what is right or wrong about drugs and how it can affect them during the development of their years, which is why we should always prevent them from taking drugs, even though they know that they want it, even though it's bad. And this is why drugs will affect society in a lot of ways that no one can predict, because it will stunt the development, and we don't know if it'll go right way or wrong way. Drugs have been around for a long time, especially merging with society for as long as human history has begun. In the late teenage years by Rodriguez de la Sierra, it says that it is the interaction of cultural, environmental, and constitutional elements with the conscious and unconscious forces operating within the individual who becomes an addict. Or in other words, the interaction of his inner and external worlds that contribute most significantly to the creation of this condition. Now let's talk about the Mexican cartels during the pandemic. In the pandemic, there's not a lot of people who will pay attention to drugs and other stuff that you can buy on the black market. Instead, they would be focusing on the disease, COVID-19. And so the Mexican cartels, they would just shoot people on the streets and leave them on the streets, and police would not care because they can't do a thing about it, especially during the pandemic. And the drugs are only part of the cartels because they would also recruit kids and shoot and ask them to shoot guns and help kill people and run drugs across the nation or streets and whatever. And a reporter was asking a kid who was shooting an M16 if he would rather join normal society or work for the cartel with drugs and stuff. And the kid would say that he would join the cartels because he loves getting drugs and getting high and having a lot of money working for the cartel, even though it's really dangerous and he can get killed. And without drugs circling around the world, civilization can begin to develop even more, because the people would not go for drugs if they knew that it can kill them and have a lot of consequences in society while doing so. Whether or not drugs will affect society will always be a big problem, especially when there's a lot of it out in the world. The future might be bleak because of drugs, but without drugs, it can grow to something more. And society has been running alongside drugs for a very long time, and there are major effects that happen to the people who take them and others who get off them and cope with not taking them for a long time without knowing the consequences it has on society. In conclusion, stop taking drugs or it will be too late to understand what will happen to you and the consequences it will have on society later in life. Thank you for listening to my speech.